How do decimal coefficients affect the discriminant? Imagine solving a quadratic equation and wondering how changing the numbers might change the solutions. Today, we're going to see how decimal coefficients influence the discriminant and what that means for your solutions. The discriminant is the part of the quadratic formula under the square root, written as B2 for AC. It helps us figure out how many solutions a quadratic equation has and whether they are real or imaginary. If the discriminant is positive, there are two different real solutions. If it is 0, there is exactly one real solution, called a repeated root. If it is negative, the solutions are to complex numbers, which involve imaginary numbers. When the coefficients b or c are decimals, like 0.5, 2.75, or 1.2, calculating the discriminant works the same way as with whole numbers. You just substitute the decimal values into the formula and do the math. The only difference is that the result might be a decimal number instead of a whole number. Using decimals in the coefficients does not change what the discriminant tells us. It still indicates how many solutions there are and whether they are real or imaginary. The key is that the discriminant depends only on the values of b and c, whether they are decimals or whole numbers. Sometimes, working with decimals can make calculations a little more complicated, especially by hand. To make it easier, you can multiply every term in the quadratic equation by a power of 10 to clear the decimals. For example, if your quadratic is 0.57x2, 3.7x plus 2.5 is equal to 0, multiply all terms by 100 to get rid of the decimals. This turns the equation into 57x2, 370x plus 250 is equal to 0. Now, you can calculate the discriminant using these whole numbers, which is easier and just as accurate. Remember, the main point is that decimal coefficients do not change the role of the discriminant. They only affect the numbers you plug into the formula. Whether the coefficients are decimals or whole numbers, the discriminant still helps you understand how many solutions the quadratic has and what kind they are. So, next time you see a quadratic with decimal coefficients, don't worry. Just substitute the values into the discriminant formula, do the math, and interpret the result. It's that simple. Decimals are just numbers like any others, and they follow the same rules when it comes to solving quadratic equations.